How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, great topic here. Can I trust you? That could deal with me working with my peers, a supervisor and subordinate relationship. It's going to be a great dialogue because today we're going to talk about what you need to do to earn that trust. And it's not easy because in some cases, trust and corrections, we like to think it's automatic. You've been through the academy. Now I automatically trust you, but it's not always the case. I mean, trust has different components. I could trust you to do your job, but does that always mean I trust you as a person? And that's kind of where the level is that maybe we want to get at, depending on how close we want to keep this family, the family and corrections, of course. Now, guys, this show is going to be sponsored to you by two entities. We have American Military University, great school. Guys, if you get a chance looking for a higher level of education, please check out American Military University. They're very supportive of us in Tier Talk, more importantly, the profession. And I just got messaged the other day. Some gentleman signed up for American Military University and is getting their psychology degree. So bravo. Congratulations. It's a great step forward. Always getting your education is a great step forward. And I'm sure my guest today, Soto, he has gone from a major who's now retired and on his way to getting his doctorate. So before we start the show, maybe he could talk a little bit about the importance of getting a higher education, whether it applies in the profession or for Soto's case, when you retire, the other options that could open up. And we also have Guardian RFID, from inmate tracking and cell checks to cloud-based business and artificial intelligence. Guardian RFID digitally transforms jails, prisons, and juvenile detention facilities of every size. Visit guardianrfid.com for more information. Guys, don't forget Inmate Manipulation Decoded is now available on Amazon. I have a link to that in the description. I'm still working on my next book, The Correctional Daily Reader. I'm moving through every day, but got to get those quotes, not just from me, because I'm quoted every day, but I like to get quotes from different people who work in this profession. So it's a bit of a timely process, but we will get something done by the end of this year, beginning of the next. And I think this is a book that we'll definitely be able to carry with you. Every page written in that book is topic driven. And I promise you, it's not 101. It's from the insight that I have developed through the course of the show by talking to many experts and just really having deep dialogues. You know, I mean, that's the key, not doing surface dialogues, just really going above and beyond. So for anybody that, is interested in just learning, I mean, not even just about the profession, but about yourself and what you're capable of, I think this will be a great book that you can carry with you and just kind of reflect on. Soto, what's up, Soto? What's going on?
Hey, good morning, guys. How are we doing today? I'm here once again with the great host, Mr. Anthony Gangi.
All right, you got my trust.
Absolutely. That's how you do it, right? That's how you start, giving good feedback and giving good compliments to the people around you. You know, that makes them feel well. That makes them feel good, and they feel like, oh, this guy really wants to, or this girl really wants to learn about the job and go forward. So I'm crazy to start this conversation about trust.
Yeah, now Russ, Russ, see, now I just lost all that. By the way, Russ is on his way to Las Vegas right now.
Awesome.
So we wish him a safe trip right now. And some prayers for his family. They're trying, I don't want to get too personal, but the trip is really trying to figure out something that they can do for one of his loved ones. So again, our hearts, and Russ is kind of on my head with that. So our hearts go out to Russ. But having said that, now moving forward, hey Soto, besides introducing yourself to our audience, after you do that, are you able to just kind of tell people the importance of getting an education, whether now while you're in the profession or maybe what you're doing outside of the profession?
No, absolutely. Listen, I'm retired from corrections after 25 years, and I retired at a young age, and I said to myself, what do I want to do besides the promise I had made to my parents to continue with school and get my degree, which I did while working. You know, the job actually helped because they also had tuition reimbursement that assisted with my schooling. So it was awesome, but it helped tremendously on the job because as you get promoted, right, your mind, being out of school for a minute gets a little, I would say, decrepit. You lose some brain cells, if you want to say it that way. But going to school keeps you in that mode of studying, reading, taking tests, or writing papers. And it's great for promotional exams as you move up in your profession. And it gives you pointers on leadership as always. And again, towards the end of my career, I said, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this after I retire? What do I want to do? Do I want to sit at home, or do I want to continue my career? So it helps a lot, because what you have to offer to other employers outside, going maybe from corrections forever and ever to now the private world, they want to know, what can you bring to the table? It's just like a military man leaving the armed services after doing their wonderful career. And now, what do you have to offer to us? So having that degree and whatever else gives you not only the leadership experience that you've attained while doing your time in corrections, but it also gives you that backup, that saying, hey, not only did I do this job, which is very, very hard to do, it also gives me that credibility that I have this diploma behind me, and the opportunities just open up.
Hey, and real quick, before we go on the show, let me ask you one more question, because we could probably do a whole topic on this, but just in case, because I am really motivated. We did have a gentleman that did message me saying that he went back to school to get his degree. How do you choose a degree, something that's balanced? So let's say I choose something that I want to do because I know the profession requires it. But having said that, what about if you don't get the position you want? How do you choose a degree that's balanced? So basically, yeah, I'll try for the profession, but it's also something I want.
That's an excellent question. So I get that a lot from my students that are in the criminal justice program that get a, let's say, an associate's in criminal justice, sometimes a bachelor's. They say, what do I do from here? Where do I go from here? So my best advice to you is that don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? You can get an associate and even a bachelor's in criminal justice if you want to. But remember, what job am I going to do after I finish corrections? So you want to be able to open other doors. So the pathway that I took is the social sciences, right? I got my minor was in criminal justice, but as soon as I went to my master's degree, I took it in public administration. It opens up a whole new realm of opportunities for you, and they accept all your credits from the criminal justice degree. So that's what's wonderful about it. Then I went on and I moved on. You don't have to stay in that one topic. They accept most of your credits in different branches. So now I'm taking a doctorate, but not in public administration. That was my master's. Now I'm going to my doctorate in education, so that I can continue and obviously be a full-time professor at Rutgers University. But you see how doors open up. I'm still working in the criminal justice field, but I can always work in other companies because my degree has been in different branches, but it's still in the social sciences branch. So that's what my opinion to you is, or my advice to you is.
Yeah, for me, when I went back to school to get my degree in psychology, I knew it was related to the profession, but I also thought it'd be interesting, and it was. I think it's helped me out when it comes to the show. Believe it or not, I took an interest in social psych, which wound up helping me really get developed in leadership stuff, because leadership is really about, you know, the who we can be in the environment that we're in, and dealing with the pressures of that environment, which is pretty much social psych 101. But again, I found it to have value, and it grew me both professionally, but more importantly, personally. I think that's what you want to answer. I mean, what degree can you get has that balance? Or how are you going to grow professionally, but also personally? Because as I said, with Soto, he loves what he does. He loves teaching the kids about this profession, and giving them a perspective that they wouldn't get otherwise from just a person who writes a textbook. I mean, here's Soto, who's a major at some of the toughest facilities in New Jersey, and now he's teaching people from experience. So basically, Soto has found a way to, okay, I'll use your books, but I'm going to interpret them through the eyes of someone with an experienced perspective. So I thought that's pretty cool. Hey, Soto, so real quick, there's a couple of angles here when it comes to building trust. So with that said, and to kind of keep in line with the different people that watch this show, so we have, trust between departments, trust between individuals, trust between management and frontline. And again, I don't know if there's always a general way to approach that, because each entity has different needs or wants. And if we do have, and we were just discussing this today, one of the things off the bat, guys, is trust is not built solely based on outcomes. It's built on efforts, which you may not always see. And I want to just put that out there, and that will float around. If we get to it, we get to it. I just want to get that out there. That's going to relate to a journal entry I have. But I thought first, let's start with, rookies. Let's start with officers or just new people coming into this profession, because it could be either one. It's not just officers that are coming from the academy. It could be just, someone starting in a career in social services and they go into the prison setting. I mean, is trust given to them automatically, or is it earned?
Now you got to think about this in various ways, and we can sit here on this topic on each individual aspect of it, and probably spend an hour on each with not even covering everything that needs to be covered. But when we're talking about rookies, right, and we've covered this topic before, but I want to add and expand to it, right? Let's talk about little things, right? Obviously, you have to earn the trust of your colleagues, your fellow officers, and they're not going to outright give it to you. A lot of us come out of the academy and already think, hey, what can I learn from the senior officers that I haven't learned at the academy already? Well, that's the wrong mindset right off the bat. Those individuals at the facility have learned their job by doing it every day, and they have so much valuable information to give you as a rookie that you need to be a sponge and take it in. But I want to go back to little things, right? One of the best ways to gain the trust of your fellow officers or senior officers is to be dependable, right? And it starts with little things like, do you come into work on time? You know what I mean? In the military, they said if you're on time, right, you're late. So 5 minutes early to your shift, whatever it takes, 10 minutes early to your shift, it already starts that, oh, this individual cares about his job, right? Secondly, let's talk about little things because they amount to bigger things later. How do you look in your uniform? People don't think about that all the time. But if I have a person that just came out of the academy, I'm expecting them to be crisp, clean, uniform press, looking like, they maybe came out of the uniform store, right? If I see someone coming in and their shirt's wrinkled or their pants are undone or not hemmed or their shoes are not shined, now you've taken that senior officer looking at you like, this guy doesn't even care, or this girl doesn't even care about herself. Do I want to be associated with this person? I just wanted to pinpoint that out, Gangi, because sometimes we don't talk about the little things, and that can open the door to people trusting you.
Well, yeah. I mean, first impressions, guys. I mean, I'm going to tell you something. I mean, obviously, Soto, you're spot on. If I come in not looking the part, I can't be believed that I can do the part. And I truly do think when it comes to people entering the profession, I think the first thing I look at to see if I can trust them. And by the way, this could even be someone that just became a supervisor, and I'm meeting them for the first time, or I know them, and I may not trust in their abilities. So one of the things are outside of just how they look, because I agree that's definitely the initial impression, probably the most powerful one, because if you don't look the part, you're going to spend your time fighting to prove that you can be trusted to do the job. And that's ultimately what it is. Can you be trusted to do the job? That's why that first impression does matter. So the first thing I would look at first is their work ethic. Are they able to do what's expected of them? Do I believe that they can carry out what's expected of them? And so I know for you that matters, because even as a supervisor looking down, even as a peer next to a rookie coming in, if I'm going to spend my time and effort investing in you to make sure that I give you a good solid foundation, do I feel that you have the ability to apply what I'm teaching you? Or because I've seen it. I've worked next to people where I'm like, man, I don't know how this person was able to make it through the academy, or how this person got filtered through the hiring process, because I'm trying to do this and they're just not getting it. So for me, first thing, I mean, obviously the impression definitely is first. After that, would you think the abilities of the person to carry out their duties effectively?
Absolutely, Ganji. Just think about, like you just said, I'm going to devote my time, which is valuable, right, to attempt to train you or give you some guidance or points or pointers. And after I do that, devote my time, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a half hour, or entire shift. How am I going to be able to depend on you, right, to take what I've given you and apply it, like you said? The biggest turnoff would be to see you I taught you how to do the count the proper way, and then you take a shortcut. Or I taught you how to do or address a certain issue on the unit, and you do it totally different than what I just explained to you. Whatever you just said, hey, whatever you just taught me, I'm just going to put by the wayside. I know a better way. And that just turns the individual off. And that's how you don't gain their trust. Because if you did, or you followed up on what I just taught you, I can see that my vested interest in you, that my vested time in you, it's worthwhile because you're going to become that officer that I can depend on and trust.
Right. And guys, that's the key here, because that trust and that sense of reliance, this is a job where our lives could depend on it. So it's not something that we're willing to give so easily, but doesn't mean that it's not earned. And I just want to put something else out there, by the way. The new people should be able to trust you automatically. So I want people to know, all because you're not trusting new people doesn't mean that you're standoff to them. I mean, you have to find a way to build that trust. I believe that's intentional from the person on the other end. So okay, so well, I'm not going to trust them right away. Okay, but you have to be intentional in effort to seek that trust. It may not be something that's passively done. And by the way, there are moments that where the trust could come immediately. A response to a code and where your life was in danger, and this person comes in there could be an immediate sense of trust there. It doesn't mean that it's 100%, because again, a person could respond to the code because it's their job to do so, or because they really have that love for what it is that we do, that respect for what their job is and the duty that they have to perform. So having said that, because trust is not automatic, I want people to know it's intentional on both ends. One, to make an effort to build it, showing that you're capable, showing that you fit the part, you look the part. But for the other side of it, to make the effort to not push the person off. If see if you can cultivate trust. Would you agree with that?
No, absolutely. You see this on and on and on in our institutions all the time, where the senior officers, don't automatically trust the new individuals coming in, and that has a number of different reasons why. But you got to understand that us as seniors have been out of the academy for many, many years. We may not know all the facts, because sometimes our in-service training is a little lacking. But these new individuals, we should embrace them and say, hey, what are they doing at the academy now? What are they teaching you now? And, that's how you gain some information as to where the department is headed. What are the goals of the department, right? So that way you can build on that trust that needs to foster for the remainder of the career. And like you said, just an incident where, you're responding and we're in a situation that may be, really dangerous, that builds trust right away, where you see that the individual, male or female officer is being there, responsive, doing their job, doing what needs to happen to make everyone safe.
Yeah, I'm actually going to put this thing that you mentioned at the. I want to make sure people know that's important. Though, I agree. Look the part is a great way to it's supposed to be to begin. So let me fix that.
Mm-hmm.
But I want people to make sure that to me is something that truly does matter. Look the part is a great way to begin the road to being trusted. I just
Absolutely.
like that initial impression thing. Um, I want to kind of go back with something we left floating in the air. Um, because I don't think there's much more that we could really discuss when it comes to the new boots or new people coming in. Again, you can't be expected to be trusted 100%. But having said that, it should be expected that you could trust the people that are already in the profession when you go in. Hopefully, they realize that, again, if I'm a senior person, it's very important that I show that you can trust me, because again, we still have to develop a relationship here. Um, and again, knowing that you're capable. Are you humble? Are you listening to what's being said? Are you having value? Because I will tell you one other thing, by the way. Maybe something not noticed right away, but if you're coming in new and already miserable, and you don't see the value in the work being done, I'm probably not going to trust you. That's why I got to be careful with disgruntled workers, especially partnering them together. For me, the biggest thing about this profession is you got to have value for the work being done. So I don't want to partner you with someone that's disgruntled. 100% don't want to do that because that could destroy the potential of someone who can really take this profession to the next level. But sometimes you get people that are just here because they have to be here or they feel they have to be here. Maybe there's a road that they want to do that they feel is better. And in this case here, I'm just settling. And now the problem is they have no value in the work being done. My concern is if I'm going to build a trust for that person, it's not going to happen by them minimizing the value behind the work being done, because not only do I kind of trust them at that point, because guys, if you don't believe in the value of the work being done, there's no way I can value the integrity behind the work that you're doing. There's a lot of things I'm not going to be able to see. Plus, you're also insulting me, who may find value in the work being done. I mean, I'll do my part as a trainer to try to cultivate value in the job being done. But there's only so much you can do when someone their perspective is so far removed. They're worried about where they should be, as opposed to living in the moment and really understanding the value of the work being done today, working next to me. So, would you agree with that? Their perspective of the value of the work being done also matters.
Absolutely. I mean, you hit some great points, and you have to understand the fact that individuals are going to be human beings, right? And sometimes we get complacent in our own jobs, depending on how long you've been there. Sometimes you lose that drive that keeps you on your toes. But in the profession that we're in, we need to be on our toes 24/7. It's just that important and that dangerous of the field that we have chosen as a career. And like you said, it's up to the supervisor sometimes to make sure that you pair these new people coming in the door with individuals that still have that drive, because that's how you build your team, right? That's how you promote that good morale as you move forward in your career. It's very important that you do that. And Gangi, we can be on there with the new
Right.
people forever and ever and ever and give more and more pointers. But you have to understand that it's a two-way street between seniors or more experienced officers and the new boots as well. And then, trust has to be there between the officers and their first line supervisor or even their management. We can do hours on that as well.
Yeah, and you're right. We'll move forward. It came to me all of a sudden when we were just talking. I thought of it because I remembered working next to, like, as a supervisor, seeing some of the rookies come in and they got like 1 or 2 days. They're already pissed off. They're angry. They're getting mandatory. Whatever it is, this
Oh,
place is bullshit. And it's like, whoa, someone that's coming into this job that doesn't value the work being done, besides the fact that it's insulting, really does make me question, their ability to want to do the job.
Well, that's another good point, because remember, I usually start my classes by giving them a little bio on me and how I got into corrections, right? And I make a joke of it. I say, ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a corrections officer. Everybody knows I'm being sarcastic. Everybody knows that that's not a kind of chosen field that someone wants to be or aspires to be, unless there's law enforcement in their family, or they have generations of individuals in their family have been in the field or corrections, and they see it as a viable career. So, individuals coming in, they might have been wanted to be a law enforcement, going to the state police, going to government, FBI, CIA, all of those things. And then, like you said, might have settled for this to be a stepping stone. But that doesn't mean you come in disgruntled. That doesn't mean you come in and say, I'm going to be just miserable every day until I get what I want or get to go on to my next career. You have to make the best of what you have. And most of us that have taken this job and made it a career for ourselves have done very, very well. Become better persons, better leaders. Your attributes just become that much better because you're in a pressurable situation most of the time, and you learn how to cope and deal with it, and you become just that much more of a better person for it.
Yeah, and guys, it kind of touches on the fact that motives matter. Motives matter. Whether you're joining the profession, your motives for moving up matter. Now, I want to kind of talk about the relationship between the different departments real quick. And again, you know what, Soto, you're right. I mean, this could be a crazy dialogue, but as long as we get the generalized point out there, it's up to the people to find a way to apply that. So, and by the way, even though we're generalizing, it's still a very deep generalization. It's not something that's simplistic, just something that, gives you a chance to go back and be a little bit more insightful. For me, when it comes to the different departments working together, I think trust comes with an effort of understanding what each other's roles are, common sense, communication, all that stuff. But I also like to think this is where I left something up in the air a little bit that I want to come back to is the exhausted effort. And I'm going to tell you why. The exhausted effort matters. Um, Sometimes we may not value the end game of another department because we may not be so invested in them. At one point, sometimes when you, especially as frontline, you may only see the concerns of your department and really never look to the left and right to see how your concerns could affect another department like medical or social services or management even. I mean the management's just a department. Admin's just a department when it comes down to things and the bigger picture. It's just a department with different responsibilities. That's all. A bigger level of responsibilities, but still no different. It's still a department. Now, having said that, a lot of us, when we kind of want something done or we feel we need something done, we base our trust in the outcome of it being done. So if I see it happening, oh yeah, custody's good to me today. We got the program running. I saw my inmates for medical today on their appointments. Everything was great. Boom, 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 boom. Everything's going good. The moment the outcome doesn't happen, all of a sudden, wow, custody, man, they're messing around today. It's not the regular and
Point.
whatever. Yeah, it's and the problem is because the effort behind it can't be seen. The effort to make things happen. So usually what happens here is in order to build trust for the different departments, in my mind, the staff that represent the different departments have to believe in the exhausted measure so they understand the no. So it's not just a no, we didn't try. It's a no. Trust me, we tried. We know your department has to get this accomplished, but today these are things that occurred that stopped it. So again, shifting our mindset from outcome to effort matters. But and I think this is where Soto would probably love to cut in on this is that the besides this being an intentional effort because efforts are not always seen, it really does go by the reputation of that one person who may be responsible for that outcome, or an effort to make the outcome, which unfortunately sometimes gets generalized to the whole department. So if I have a problem with Soto because I don't believe Soto makes the effort, because every time Soto's on shift, it's always going to be a no. And then I start, as let's say I'm social services, and I start to see, well, Soto could have done these things. So I don't believe he's even making the effort. If he really wanted to do it, these are the things he could have done. And then eventually it starts to generalize, Soto's just custody. And at the end of the day, custody just, doesn't care. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start going around Soto. And you know what? I'm not even going to bother calling the sergeant or the lieutenant because it's just a custody thing. I'm just going to go ahead and call admin. And now we have no empowering on the front line. And now admin gets overwhelmed with BS conflict that shouldn't exist. There's a lot there, Soto. And I know
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
hits home with you. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's absolutely right. When we talk about the effort that we do every day to ensure that our final and ultimate goal gets done. As far as custody is concerned, is to get through our day. Captivate and get all our expectations done by the end of the day, and be in a safe environment. That to us is a win. But sometimes we forget that we need to know what the other departments and what their goals are and how they fit into our entire and departmental goals, where we need the place to run as efficiently as possible. But when you have efforts on different parts, whether it be social services, education, even the kitchen staff, and the efforts aren't seen or the outcome isn't what you expected it to be, being that food should have been served on time so that our schedule isn't delayed for the rest of the remainder of the shift, and it didn't happen, we're always looking to who's at blame, who's at fault. instead of looking at to as a gaining an experience or learning experience whereby we're like saying, what happened? Did they have enough staff this morning? Was there an incident that occurred that delayed everything, and it impacts every little department, I've been to places where we walk in and our custody shift starts earlier than everybody else. We start at 6 a.m. in the morning, and then something happens. Trips are delayed, or there's a code that we responded to. But now the education department that doesn't know that these things have transpired, right? And are getting ready to start their day at 8 o'clock. They're looking to teach. That's their main point. And where are my students? Even though they're inmates, how come they're not here on time? And now we're looking at, custody's messing up again. They're not letting them out the doors, and not knowing, right, the efforts that were happening, or that the code just got cleared, or that we're writing reports, or that we're just, trying to calm ourselves down so we can get back on the schedule. Those things are just lost in translation sometimes, and then we end up blaming each other and not trusting one department with the next.
That was me. I think that was me texting you.
I got it.
Yeah, because we're having this dialogue, I just asked if you could send me a 1 to 2 sentence quote
Absolutely.
on what I'm entering in the journal. Hey, Soto, you know what? That brings up a good question that I kind of like to ask. How do we shift? Man, I'm telling you, man, I need glasses. How do we? It's supposed to be. How do we shift the mindset from trusting the outcome as opposed to believing in the? Oh wait, sorry guys. See, I'm all backwards here. So basically, here's what it is. How do we switch the mindset from shifting away from the outcome and trusting in the effort? So for me, if I could just quickly say something, I believe that it's hard to always see the effort. I get it, because if you don't get what you want, I'm not going to go back to the other department and give them excuses, or I'm not going to point the finger and blame. I'm not going to say, because I think that kills morale too. If I say, well, hey, I wanted to try, but management's not allowing it, or what? I don't think it. I just think that it really does go by the reputation of the person who's going to be a representative of that department you're trying to interact with. And by the way, this is not just departmental. This could also be just amongst each other. I mean, this could be very generalized. But having said that, I think that if there's a sincere attempt at a level of care or understanding for the needs of that individual or the needs of the other department, the effort is kind of, the understanding of the effort's kind of automatic. Especially if they don't see anything that conflicts with that, because again, this isn't just about intent, it's about behaviors. So you have to find a way to sync both of those, so when the person walks in, they can honestly see that there is an exhausted effort, because the last thing you want to do is say all these things that you're trying, and then someone who knows something very limited about your department catches on to something that kind of shows that there is no exhausted effort. And I will tell you one thing, if you try to sell that bridge and it's not there, you lose that trust for quite some time. But what do you think would be a good way to shift the mindset of people who are outcome driven, and just kind of let them look at the effort behind something?
You have to have some sort of understanding. So we work in a career in an environment where it's very hard to get feedback. And what I mean is, if you were in the private sector and you were XYZ company that makes widgets, right? That company can get feedback at every level, from all the way at the bottom, those guys that are making things and putting things together, and all the way to the top where we have the salespeople and we have profit that we can look at. So you can see even the customer base giving you feedback as to, yeah, this widget is great. I love it. You get feedback. So along the lines that you're doing a good job, that, the company's moving forward, that we're making profit, that everybody's happy with our widgets. How about in corrections? How do we get feedback in corrections sometimes? It's very hard, because if we do something well, if we get through the day and everything is going right, where do we get that feedback? We only get a little bit of feedback when things go wrong, when things go awry. And then we are quick to point fingers and say, oh, it's operations fault, or it's custody's fault, or it's, medical wasn't on time with what we needed to do. I can give you examples of, At one point we had a serious incident where an inmate overdosed in their cell, and we went into the cell after being alerted, after we took account, and the individual was very, very, very far gone. Medical responds, and they didn't even attempt to do any life-saving measures because in their mind, too, they were like, this person's far gone. And what happens? We all ended up being investigated because no one rendered assistance to the inmate. And we started pointing fingers at each other. Well, we responded, right? We were there. We called medical. Medical came in and did nothing. And then medical did the same thing, pointed fingers at us. Well, the individual's kind of big and we couldn't turn the person over to actually render assistance and give CPR or the AED. So we ended up battling each other as opposed to working with each other and saying, hey, here's what really happened. So as far as feedback and changing the mindset of the efforts that were put into dealing with a situation, it's what we need to learn to express to each other, to learn to look back and say, hey, how do we change and understand that the outcomes may not necessarily, reflect all the effort that was put into taking care of or handling a day or a situation.
Right. And what's great, because as we cross into the supervisory one, I kind of just have to rewrite it. But as we cross into the supervisory one, a lot of it also goes back to effort too, because I know for a fact that if I'm going to trust my supervisor, I want to make sure that they're making an effort to translate my concerns, my needs, more importantly than my wants. But yeah, of course, sometimes wants, but more importantly, my needs. And again, a good supervisor that has a good reputation, I believe, even if they don't get the outcome they want, they still don't lose the trust of their people. But there is a skill here, and Soto, I know I got to hear your thoughts on this real quick. So there's a skill, I think, when a supervisor is able to relay the effort without pointing the finger. So again, I couldn't get it to go my way, but then how they translate a level of what has to be accepted to that front line is so key, is what makes a good supervisor, because supervisors, we don't always get the win. Admin, we don't always get the win. But how we translate that to the people that need it or want it truly matters, because that's what keeps the trust in play. So when you get a no for something that they want, you can't be quick to deliver the no as an absolute. Because your job really is, you're going to get some no's. Your job now in that middle part is, how do I translate that and still keep that morale? So Soto, on the top down, how do you do that? How do you, kind of push the effort? I made the effort, but if it doesn't go to your way, if it doesn't go the way that they want, how do you translate the message back? So one, not only do they still trust in you in making the effort, but more importantly, guys, and this is important too, that they trust in the agency or the higher level executive staff.
Yeah, it's funny that you say some things like that because things come to mind right away. So many instances that I had in the facility as a supervisor where, complaints were going up from the inmates all the way to administration that let's say they weren't getting enough recreation time in the administrative segregation area, or restrictive housing, as we call it, or lockup. And our own line staff, our officers were telling us, hey, Sarge, hey, Lieutenant, we would like to do this in more an expedited manner, but it's not safe. We need more staff in order to do what we want to do, having enough officers for the escort so we can get them back and forth from the yard back to their cells and from their cells to the yard in a timely fashion, and everybody gets the hour or whatever they're required. And taking that, not complaint, but actual that issue, upper management, and letting them know, hey, listen, we need more staff. We have to have more staff. Otherwise, we can't get done what you're trying to get us to accomplish in a safe manner. And then getting the no from the administration saying, it's impossible to give you more staff. Our budget is what it is. This is what the job entails. Go back and get this done, right? And now it's up to you as a supervisor to come back to that line staff and be able to say, listen, this is not the best outcome that we were looking for, but I brought your issues, I brought your concerns to administration, and they're looking at us to say, hey, let's do this, but let's do it in a safe manner. And if there are some real issues that we cannot address, we're going to continue and not cut corners or not put people in danger, you need to tell them we're going to do it as it dictates to be done, but in a safe manner. I think that's how the relationship between the supervisor and the line staff, knowing that you did bring those issues to administration, that at least you went up there and voiced their opinions, right? Because that communication has to come from top to bottom and from the bottom to the top. And there has to be that communication.
Yeah, I think I'd like to add on that too, because you got me thinking too, is that so when I go to when I go to represent a concern, and I do my best to kind of just not represent the concern on a surface level. I mean, you really gotta, dive deep and really sometimes let the higher level staff who may not know
Yeah.
a perspective. Give them a perspective of what the front line needs, especially if the perspective makes sense to you, because not every concern needs to go up top. I'm not saying that because sometimes, as a good supervisor, you can go back to them and say, guys, I get what you want, but because I understand what the executive staff may need, your concern, it doesn't apply to that. So the best you can do in that translation is give frontline an understanding of what's expected, but more importantly, why it's expected. And that should give them an understanding of what you have to filter up. Because again, I'm letting you know that these are the concerns and this is what we have to address. And are you now, as a frontline, let's say hypothetically, you be an obstacle? Because again, is this just a no for the sake of a no? Or have you given me a valid argument so I don't look foolish? Because don't forget, I have to be trusted too. I got to be trusted to be someone that's seen as someone that wants to facilitate these efforts. So again, if I bring a matter up to the higher level, it's not a matter that's meant to be an obstacle. It's a matter of, I'm looking to try to get this to work, but I need help with this solution. And again, it's an effort to create the momentum. Now, with that said, when the top down gives me a no, they have to also, I would like to think fairly, I have to understand that's an exhaustive effort. How I understand it's an exhaustive effort is by the justification for their no. Now, you have some people that are just top down heavy. To know that's it, done. Guys, that's hard for me to sell. I'm giving you a concern that's legit. It's not an obstacle. It's a concern that's legit. Now, when I go up to you with what I filtered as a concern, and now you come back and you just say no and be done with it, that puts a lot of pressure on me now to try to sell that bridge to the point where it's like, you know what, man, this is not worth it. But I start losing trust in my effectiveness, believe it or not. That's why sometimes you want to give out a yes once in a while, but if you can't, give something that management can lean on. Because if you're a good supervisor, you filtered a lot of these concerns already. So by the time it gets to the executive staff should know that this is a quality concern, a concern that deserves more than just to know and be done with it. And the reason why is because I have to have that person who's in middle management, the person in between, they have to translate that and still be seen as effective, still be seen as someone that they can trust. Because the last thing you want to do also is to close that door where you don't know there's a concern. And that's going to probably start where front lines like this guy ain't doing nothing because we don't trust them. And that really does kind of piggyback off the fact that I'm trying to go to you and you've given me no valid excuses. What's your thoughts on that with that
Well,
understanding?
sometimes in some instances where, you go to administration, you get that hard no, and there's no justifiable reason why you're getting the no after you're bringing up this concern. It's time to show them, right? Do it the right way. Go back to your line staff, to your officers and say, okay, well, now because they know about the concern and they think that we're the obstacle, that we're the ones that don't want to do the job the way they want it done. Well, let's do it. Let's try and attempt what they're asking us to do. So now you're going to show them that what they've actually asked you to do may not be the best way, may not be a feasible way to get things done. I mean, that's what I had to do in that example that I gave you. They said, we don't have any more staff, do it with what you got. Okay, I'm going to do it with what I got. And then we went by the book, right? Inmates had to come out the cell. They had to be strip searched before going into the yard for protection of staff and other inmates. And we did it. And it had to be 2 officers escorting the person to the yard and come back and get the next individual. And in the return, do it the same way. When they found out that attempting to do it the way that they wanted it done actually became more of a problem than the initial complaint that inmates were saying we're not getting enough time or we're not getting to the yard. They kind of had to reevaluate and had to come back to the line staff, come back to that supervisor and say, okay, how can you help us get this accomplished in a better way? Right? Sometimes you have to understand that management gets bombarded with a million problems or a million concerns, and sometimes they have to prioritize, and the one that you're bringing up may not be on the top of their chart. So sometimes you have to show them, this is what I'm doing, this is the concern, we're attempting to do it the way you want, it's just not working out. And I've gotten so far by showing them that way, because then they know I'm not the obstacle. I'm not the person trying to not get this to work. I'm just telling you that there's a better way.
Yeah, and I agree. Guys, if you don't, from the people that are in a position to deliver the outcome, and you're kind of communicating to the person who's in the position to deliver the effort, if you don't give them something that is understood so they can translate it down. Now, mind you, again, just to reiterate, I'm talking about filtered concerns, concerns that are quality in nature that do require some level of response. It's very hard for this person to go back down to that front line and not want to blame somebody, for the no. Trust and believe it's true because they can't come up with anything valid. Because again, maybe because higher up can't come up with anything valid. That's the problem. Then you expect this person to deliver that no and have that no be accepted or have that outcome be accepted. So again, I think the trust does come in partnership of if I'm applying the effort, then whoever's in charge of the outcome, you have to make the effort as well. The effort continues. If I'm applying all the effort and you're just going to say no to begin with, this doesn't work. It doesn't work because the person that's applying the effort, not only do we have to trust in the people that are applying the effort, but the person applying the effort also has to trust in the effort of the person in charge of the outcome. So it's not like I'm not saying it's a hot potato. I'm just saying we're all playing our role. But having said that, you never want to disenfranchise the person making the initial effort, and that goes from front line, not only being outcome driven, and that also goes from the higher up who's like, nope, this is what we want. It is what it is. So, and that to me is something. Maybe Soto, I kind of gave you asked you for your help in that quote. Maybe
Yeah.
the quote that you can help provide 2 or 3 sentences about what we just said about the translating or justifying the translating that communication between both, and just what we talked about now. How the initial effort also has to have some level of trust between the person making the initial effort and the person that's responsible for the outcome. Hey Soto, and hopefully I get that quote sometime today. Hey Soto, or you know what, Doctor Soto, I'm kissing your ass now. I need help, Doctor Soto. Hey, you have anything you'd like to say in closing? I thought this was a great topic.
It was a great topic. The initial topic was on trust, right? And we know we can talk about it for days on end about how to gain trust and what trust does to an organization, right? When there's a lot of trust and a lot of good morale, and there's things that you can accomplish that may seem unattainable, but because there's trust and there's that, great morale and morale boost and that forward motion, and motivation, departments can go, the mountains are your peak. I mean, you can do anything. You can do anything. So please trust in each other, keep each other safe, and by all means, keep us in your prayers as we are looking at our world and what's happening and transpiring throughout our world.
Yeah, it's a scary situation, guys. But with that said, um, we have to still always keep moving, keep that momentum going because the world doesn't stop for us in corrections. Um, but guys, I thought this was a great dialogue. Earning trust is important. I think one of the things that's barely ever discussed is the value of an effort. The importance of an effort. So, again, guys, hope you get some value from this. It was great having Soto on, and we will probably be on again sometime next week, discussing more topics that relate to the correctional environment. Guys, if you have any questions, put them in the comment. Any concerns, put them in the comment because we're always looking to grow or even touch on topics again because there's always another perspective. Soto said it right at the very beginning. Hey, we covered this partly before, but there's something else I can add, and sometimes that's worth doing a whole nother discussion on. So, as always, guys, the show is Tier Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Stay safe.